Alright, let's talk about Shadow Serenity, damage over time. Okay, so I'm not going to lie to you, this is the hardest spec in the game. It's most complicated, there's quite a bit of things to track. It's quite a bit of things going on. So, break things down for you. It's going to be a little bit longer video than normal because I've got to explain some things. So, level 23, let's start at the tree. Level 23, I need you to read this for AoE situations. If you're looking for an AoE situation, read this, link it with level 64. So that's all you need to know for AoE situations. Beyond that, I mean, it does not really matter what else you pick. If you're AoE, you're not really doing that much anyway. You're going to put a Sever Force, Force Breach, Spinning Strike, and and that's mostly all you need to worry about. Okay, it's not that big a deal. But you can just throw a Spinning Strike into the combat somewhere. So beyond that, everything else is going to be PvE and single target focused. So let's start with level 23, Balancing Field. You need to pick Balancing Field because you need a second charge. Okay. The reason is this is one of the things you're tracking. There's quite a few things you're tracking. Well, you don't actually need to track them. You just need to know what's going on. So first thing is you have these dots here called force suppression. So every time something takes damage from one of your dots, they lose a charge of force suppression. And you want that means they take additional attacks, additional damage from those force suppression. All right, so let's go back to the tree, and we're going to look at level 35. Level 35, that's where the information is about your force suppression. So that's why you need to take 2 charges. At level 27, pick whatever you like here. You can have a push, you can have force, whatever you want. Pick whatever you want there. Let's go up to level 39. I'm going to pick this one. Your increase the critical hit chance. You need to have critical chances. Criticals, all about criticals. So if you want one of the others, pick one of the others, but I'm going to pick this one. For these two here, level 43, Halloween helps you have more damage. And then Longing Force will allow you to have a little bit more energy consumption. This class does suffer from a little bit of energy consumption, and you may need this. If you're in a tight DPS check, you might want to check out Hallowing, read Battle Readiness if you feel like that's the one to take. Pick it, but I'm going to go ahead and go hit this one here. 51, read them, pick what you like. Level 64, all of these are good choices depending on what you're doing. Situational, I'm going to choose 64. Resilience, you must take resilience at level 68. You have to. It's just like the only option here. At level 73, Stalker Swiftness is required for this particular rotation work, but you can sacrifice that for an extra cloak or resilience. When you cloak out, you will take some less damage, which that's a good thing. It's basically like hitting a resilience, so it's like 5 seconds of resilience instead of 3 seconds. So it's possible if you cloak out, you get an extra 2. That's a great one. Level 78. I need you to read 78 because dealing melee damage increases the critical chance of your damaging periodic effects by 20% for 10 seconds. This is important because what happens is if you hit with a melee attack, you get this thing here called atrophying attacks. Critical chance of periodic damage is increased. So that stacks nicely with your dots. So always open with a melee before you apply your dots because it will increase those dots. Also, always put a force suppression on there because it increases the damage of your dots. So 2 things before you even put your dots on. Alright, next. Let's look at the force potency. That's the next thing you're going to need to track. Force potency, with the alacrity I have, is 1 minute and 10 seconds with nothing else. So every time you critically hit with a periodical damage, that effect is reduced the cooldown of force potency by 2 seconds. So that is very important that your attacks critically hit all the time, as often as possible, so that your periodicals, your dots, hit as often as possible to get that force potency off cooldown. All right, so the next thing, there's so many things to think about. So the next thing is Squelch. Squelch just costs 30 melee, but there's a way to make it go free. If you have a force breach on your target and you hit with a melee attack, then you have this ability called Force Strike. Your next squelch is now free, and that is a good thing. Your squelch is free. So you need your squelch to be free, not to bounce very quickly, and it also helps that force potency to come off cooldown, which means you'll have more opportunity to do even more damage. It's cyclical. Everything works in a cycle that it's kind of everything needs to be reset as well. So the trick for this spec is you need to keep the whole key is Sever Force. That's where everything starts, begins, and ends. Is Sever Force. It really starts and begins anywhere, but Sever Force is the key because it is the first thing that's going to fall off, and it's going to have to be put back on. So, what I'm going to do is before we get into starting attack, let's look at the tacticals here and the um, implants. So the implants, melee and force attacks deal 3% more damage. I would say pick whatever you want here. You don't have to use this one. If you want to use some other kind of tactical, fine. But you really need to use dynamic force. That 15 seconds is massive. You gotta have that one. This one, it's okay, whatever. I mean, pick something. Put something on there. Down here, Sever Force has a 100% chance to take an additional time when you deal damage with Spinning Strike. Spinning Strike will force Sever Force to attack additional. So this move, Sever Force, and Spinning Strike work together. That means you get an extra dot off of it, which means if you can get 2 into the rotation, you've got 2 extra dots from Sever Force. So, I'll give you an example of how that kind of works is if you had a stride in there, boom, now you've got an extra. You've got an extra. I don't know why there was 2 of them there, but for some reason there was 2, and it gave me 2 spinning strikes, which was Sever Force each time. Okay, so let's look at how the rotation works. The way I've got it set it up here. Make sure there's nothing else. I think that's it. Always, for most of your classes, it's going to be power and mastery. Crit seemed like it would be good here, and I thought it might be, but I found that mastery and power just performs a little better. But if you want, you can try your critical. And let me talk about the settings, the stats here for a little bit. Okay, so I run this 2 ways. There are 2 different setups that I have. Alacrity at 2076, another one at 2200. I notice if I swap this, drop this by about 200 points, I lose 1k damage, but I feel like the rotation is smoother. So if this is 2-2, it runs smoother, but I lose damage. So it's kind of it's not exactly a wash. It actually does give me more damage. So I feel like it's a better option to use it this way. Here's the other settings here. If I switch these 2 out, so I have 3,185 critical or 2,206. Everything runs smoother, and this drops down to 1.97 seconds. So it's not that big a difference. So it just feels smoother, and so we're just going to run with 2076 and 3,300. With the gear I have, this is the best I can get. This is the most damage I can push out that I've found so far. And there you can see what I'm wearing. It's all 336. Okay, let's just get into the rotation. I'm going to start from stealth, so I can either start with a Serenity Strike or any random double. You'll notice Sever Force fell off, so got to pop that back on. 8, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sever Force fell off. Now, let's put it back on. Force potency just happened to be ready, which is a good thing. You saw the squelch is highlighted popping. We have 15 charges again. 2, 3. Sever Force back on because it's gone. Pop a periodical. Dot. And you can run this forever. So I'm being a little bit lazy with my clicking. 1, 2, 3. And so basically you do this forever. So let's actually see this with the damage reduction on there. So you see a 23k damage there. And it's going to be, so this rotation should be 29k or 28k, probably 28k. Let's just play it safe, 28k. So you start out with any random attack. I like Serenity Strike just for the extra damage that it does, and just skip it the first time around. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with a Serenity Strike. This would actually stun a target, which what I've got on the tree. Add a periodical. They're going to do nicely on those damages. Skip that one. That's ready. This is ready. 1, 2, 3. Sever Forces just fell off. Pop it back on. Breach. This is ready. Squelch is free. 1, 2, 3. Put this back on. This. And you'll notice I'm running out of force. One, 2, 3. And dead. So this particular time it did 30k. It's not a normal typical thing. Normally I do 28. This just happened. I happened to do 30k. That is kind of how it works, how this rotation works, and why I'm doing it this way. I've seen other guides on the internet, and I've seen like videos and different things that it's really hard to grasp what's going on with this class. It is very complicated, but this simplifies it down and dumbs it down. Let's just really quick look at your defensives. So Force of Will, that's your breaker. Your Mind Snap, it has a cooldown of 18 seconds. It feels like that's kind of long. I didn't remember, but I'd like you to do something for me if you could, please. If you haven't done so already, if you could take your cast bar, find it, and put it near your target's cast bar. So this is, oops, your target is going to have a cast bar. Put it near your Mind Snap, and you might even think about key binding that Mind Snap. Resilience, that's your get out of jail free. You have a second get out of jail free depending on what you pick on your tree. You'll notice in that rotation I use Stalker Swiftness twice in the rotation to get an extra free spinning strike. That was from level 73, but you can probably choose this. It probably in practice this is probably better. Okay, next is going to be this defensive here, deflection. That will, you know what deflection is. All right, your mind mage, you can sleep things. Never, 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 never in PvP put somebody to sleep and attack them right away. There's literally no reason to do it. You've just given them just a bunch of resolve, like 800 resolve. Your taunt, if you're not in PvP and no one told you to taunt, do not ever taunt. Never taunt. Do not taunt single target. Okay, AoE, your mass mind control is a damage reduction if you grab this one here. This is a damage reduction for AoE, all area effect. So it depends on what you pick here. Other than that, you're not doing any. I don't know what it does. I literally have no clue what it does. I don't think it gives you defensives or anything. Oh look, mind and body damage reduction increase. Look at that. So I'm sorry. That's what it does. So it is a damage reduction. And that's all I got for you. Have fun out there, peacefully, with Serenity, killing things.